Dear Reddit, what is your worst blind date experience? Kind of a blind date fail. I had just come back home from college and was having a night drinking at the local watering hole when I noticed the place had a new bartender. New attractive bartender. Short hair, nice tattoos that were clearly leading to interesting places and an electric six shirt. Frick, yes. So I start making a bit of conversation. And much to my surprise, we seem to really hit it off. And not just bartender is everyone's best friend until they leave hitting it off, but really cool conversation. She starts hinting at if I'm seeing anyone, and I say no, and she immediately reaches into her pocket and starts writing something down. On top is the number at the apartment, and these are directions. We're having a party on Wednesday night, and you should come. True enough, a phone number and directions. What would you think? Wednesday comes and I'm dressed up and ready to impress. I head over to her place, knock on the door, and there she is, looking amazing. She smiles and hugs me, grabs me by the hand and drags me through the party until she gets to this big dude. Jonas. This is my roommate Jeff. Jeff. This is Jonas. I do the whole pleasantry thing, but when I turn around, she's gone. I mean, poof, gone. Like Batman. Not knowing anyone else, I just keep on talking to Jeff. Seems like a good guy. Suddenly he stops me mid-sentence and says, "You're not gay, are you?" No. You should really tell Liz that. She had apparently set up the entire part as an excuse to hook me up with her roommate. I had been on a blind date with a dude and didn't even know. Poor Jeff. I wonder how many times he's been put through that. I got set up with the daughter of one of my parents' friends. I wasn't really looking forward to it, but I was on break from college, and she apparently went to school not far from me, so it wasn't like a lost cause summer romance type thing. They showed me pictures and said nice things about her. I picked her up from her parents' place. We were both home for the summer, and was a little surprised by how pretty she was. The pictures had been from when she was in high school, and didn't do her justice. The date was dinner and a movie. Dinner went really well. We had a lot in common. She was very grounded and down to earth. Cared about the environment. If I have a type, she was it. So as we're walking to the movie theater, I slipped my arm around her waist. She pushed me away and got all serious. "I'm really sorry, because you seem like a nice guy, but I'm a lesbian. I just went out with you to make my parents happy." Sitting through the Chronicles of Narnia with her was the most awkward 2 hours of my life. I once went on a date with a girl and this is how the conversation went. Her. "So what's your favorite book?" Me. "Tough, but when I was little I loved Jurassic Park." Her. "Yuck. Jurassic Park." Me. "The book or the movie?" "Everybody loves Jurassic Park." Her. "I don't believe in dinosaurs." Me. "Fossils." Her. "I don't want to get into it but I think fossils are bulls." I ended the conversation there and held on to the night. Until later on she told me, "I don't believe in outer space," and my head freaking exploded. I wasn't feeling great, but decided to meet anyway. We met at a Belgian beer bar. She was gorgeous, fun, and totally into me. I felt a gas pain, so I leaned forward slightly to quietly relieve the pressure. I completely and explosively shat myself. The odor was immediate. I excused myself to the bathroom, but the damage was too great. I walked out of the bathroom, muddy panted, out of the bar, and boarded the train for home. The date was nothing compared to the horror of the following 3 weeks, recovering from E. coli. Oh my god. Somebody put crap in my pants. I was set up by a friend when I was 16. He took me to the movies, at the mall, and awkwardly tried to maquillate. Then we sat in the food court and he asked my honest opinion of him, which I mumbled something typical like "you seem nice." Without invitation he then delved into what he thought of me, which was attractive but could be really hot if I lost 5-10 pounds. Then he left me for a bit, which was weird, and returned with a lovely gift, a creepy puppet. Some people's learning curves are steeper than others. I've only been on one blind date a few years ago. It was with the investment banker son of one of my mother's friends. One of her attempts at finding me a respectable boy from a good family. So that night he calls to ask if I could pick him up instead since his car broke down. I thought, no problem, and asked where he lived. The guy was staying at a buddy's place an hour from my house. Ugh, but still no problem I thought. So I get dressed in my cutest little black dress and heels to channel the grace of Audrey Hepburn and, gosh darn it, I think I did well. I pick the guy up and he's not all bad. A little on the short side but he has a cute face and seems fit. So we get to the restaurant and order. He gets a few drinks into him and we have a conversation about job stuff blah blah, but then it arrived at who we admired. His answer? Patrick Bateman from American Psycho. Just, you know, without the killing and stuff. He said he admired the character and aspired to live that kind of life. Without the killing of course. Ding ding ding. The alarm bells were going off in my head. So trying to change the subject I mentioned the frat that he was in. We both went to the same university and that I knew some of the guys. He then proceeds to tell me that, yeah, all his friends were just vehicles for him to get ahead in life and that he didn't really like any of them. Oh look. Then comes the check. He forgot his wallet. So I paid. Just awesome. By now I was just looking for this night to be done with. But no, things had to get more fun. On the way back to the garage we pass by an alley and he leans in and whispers into my ear and says, "You're freaking hot and I want to frick you behind that pile of garbage," and he licks my ear. WRR blashold for car do not want. I tell him the night is over, gave him some money, and said that he could take the public transportation home. I then called my friends and went out to a bar to drink the experience away. Needless to say I was jumpy for a few days expecting an axe to come out from a corner at any moment. Read that like a horror story. You mentioned the alley. I screamed. Don't go in there. As I read the original post a thought occurred to me. What if she was completely underwhelmed with you and decided screw it, I'll eat with my hands tonight, just to see what she could get away with? I'm sure that's not the case, but I couldn't shake the thought. Man, that's an awesome idea. I am in a long-term relationship, but I wanna start blind dating now just for the social experiment. I should really be working but I cannot resist typing up this story. 3-4 months ago I was talking to a girl on a Cupid. Things were going pretty well and we decided to get together. I was on a budget because I was saving to move out of the country, so I suggested a local Thai place which had $0.25 sent beers with an entree, figuring the food was pretty decent and the cheap beer wouldn't hurt. I offered to pick her up but she declined, which is completely respectable. The night of the date I'm running about 5 minutes late and feeling a bit rushed when I get a call from her. Even though I gave her an exact address in an easy to find place in town, she's having trouble getting there. She ends up calling me back 6-7 times in the next 45 minutes as she tries to find her way there. No advice I could give was helping this girl. By this point I've already been there 30+ minutes and I'm about 3/4 of the way through my first beer. Red flags about how incompetent this girl must be are going crazy, but I'm already on the ride. The final time she calls me she says, "Hey, is there parking lot?" to which I reply, "No, it's all street parking." But there were a lot of open spots when I parked. She then replies, "I don't know how to parallel park." Mind you, this is a city. Parallel parking is a way of life. I'm pretty dumbfounded that she doesn't possess this skill. This is already a nightmare in my mind, and as I sit there pondering how to solve it she asks if I would mind coming out to park her car. I agree and start walking outside, being a bit embarrassed at having to explain that I'll be right back to the hostess. I walk outside and a few minutes later she pulls up. First of all, this girl was not as advertised. I got my space angled hard. I'm not someone who needs the perfect girl, but I'm telling you this was out of control. I climb into the driver's seat and the first thing I say is how weird it is. I tell her I haven't driven anything but a manual in 3 years and her automatic feels very strange. I slowly accelerate and head down the block. About 3/4 of the way down I see an open spot. I let off the gas and instinctively go to push in the clutch. Instead, I stomped the brake hard. This girl had quite a lot of mass and wasn't wearing a seatbelt. Any physics student knows what happened next. Her head flies forward and nails the dashboard. I start apologizing like crazy, and luckily she wasn't hurt. We spent the next hour having a really awkward dinner and then parted ways. No, we didn't call each other. TD. DR. Girl asks me to park her car. It's an automatic and I drive a manual. I hit brake instead of clutch, slamming her head into the dashboard. More like take this fatty slams brakes. Another OkCupid chick. We talked for a few times. The photos were small and blurry, but I got the basic idea, at least enough to set up a date since she lived about 10 blocks away. She was about 24 at the time and I was 28. We meet at a bar, and while she isn't fat, she is more plump than her profile led on, but all in all, not anywhere near as bad as some of the girls discussed here. I knew nothing was going to come of it but had nothing else to do that night, so I figured I could have some drinks and hit the sack before midnight. Almost as soon as we met, she suggests we start taking shots of whiskey. This girl could drink. Over the course of a couple of hours she probably had a half dozen shots of whiskey and several mixed drinks. During the process she liked to discuss how much she loved giving BJs and how she was. I guess she had self-esteem issues. I dunno. I was plastered, like blind drunk. By the time we are ready to leave, I don't remember going to my apartment, but I remember we ended up on my couch with a movie on as I faded in and out of consciousness and she raided my liquor cabinet. What happens next would have landed me in jail if the roles were reversed. First, I wake up to her on my lap. She is sitting facing away from me, grinding her, still in dress and panties, crotch against my jeans and stumbling about during the process. Then things go black again. I wake up again and this time it is to a BJ. I might have been drunk, but I remember a good BJ and this chick was giving a great deep throat, gagging BJ like only a drunk girl and or punster can. Then things go black again. I wake up again and now she has my pants around my knees. She had removed her panties and squatting over me, fricking me with no condom. I remember being totally freaked out by that, but not as freaked out as when she removed her bra and a dusting of dead skin fell out of the cups and onto my black shirt. I literally threw her off of me as I stood up and ran to the bathroom with my pants around my ankles, puking my guts out into the toilet. When I got back from the bathroom I was slightly sobered up and she was sitting on the couch masturbating. She asked if we could finish fricking and I said no, but she could finish me with a BJ if she wanted to. I honestly don't remember if I came or not because I passed out again. When I woke up the next morning she was gone and I never replied to another one of her text or OkCupid messages again. Whoa, that bra removing part of the story is one of the nastiest things I have ever heard in my life. I'm going to post a couple of these. I was set up with a friend of my roommate's girlfriend. Let's call the date Lisa and let's call the roomies GF Karen. I knew what she looked like, so I knew there was an attraction, but I had never spoken with her. We met outside of the restaurant and Lisa was on her cell phone. I figured it must have been important, but as we walked in and waited for the table she kept talking about stupid crap, clearly on the phone with a BFF about nonsense. She gets off the phone, doesn't apologize, and we get seated. About 2 minutes later her phone rings again and it is the same OMG, no way crap conversations. The waitress comes over and we order drinks. While she is still on the phone and I twiddle my thumbs. The drinks come. Lisa is still on the phone. I'm one stroke too done my drink and have waved the waitress off once already because Lisa is still on the phone. Finally, about 20 minutes into it, I quietly stand up, take $20 out of my wallet and walk out without saying a word. As I'm walking out I see Lisa's eyes widen to the size of dinner plates, her mouth opened wide and her face turning red in embarrassment. All of the surrounding tables had seen what transpired and were whispering to themselves about it. By the time I got home, my date Lisa was on the phone with Karen, who was over at our house at the time. It didn't occur to me until now that my date was probably on the phone with Karen the whole time. Karen was P. As soon as I walked through the door she started attacking me with "You are such an butthole. Why would you just leave her there and not say anything?" I looked her dead in the eyes and calmly replied I didn't want to interrupt such an important phone call, and then walked into my room and went to bed. As I was leaving the living room I noticed the same expression on her face that Lisa had when I left the restaurant. Side note, fast forward about 6 months and Lisa and I wound up being frick buddies for a while. So everyone won in the end. So I was going to school in New Jersey. The school that I was attending had about a 1 guy to girl ratio, so you can imagine how much fun those parties were. So getting pretty desperate for female attention, I turned my sights to a couple of online dating sites. After a few weeks, I set my sights on one girl that I had talked to a few times through the site. We decided to get together after quite a bit of flirting. I should mention at this point that I was aware from the beginning that she had 3 kids. I took caution to this, but figured since I wasn't long for New Jersey, as to just take this as a sign that she was sexually active. I should also mention that the town I was living in New Jersey was a heck hole that didn't house a single attractive, or even moderately attractive woman within a 30-mile radius. So I drive about 30 minutes to this bar in her hometown the next Friday to meet her. I run into her almost immediately. I assess the situation. She's got a cute face and a nice rack. She has a few extra pounds on her, but not to any point where I would call her fat. We have quite a few drinks while chillin', playing shuffleboard, talking to her ex-lesbian lover. Another story maybe. We decide to leave the bar a few hours later. She suggests going back to the apartment, which I assume is hers. More to come on that. Before we do though, she grabs a 12-pack of Michelob Ultra, blah, from the bar's cooler and tells me to walk. Like this a normal thing in this heck hole that is Bloomington, New Jersey. We get to the apartment and start drinking the beer. Conversation dies down pretty quick, so I just throw it out there, being that I am drunk. Wanna have sex, not the classiest moment of my life, but it worked so I'm not embarrassed about it. She takes me by the hand and go to the bedroom. She take off her pants, I take off mine, and we start going at it. A few minutes in, we hear the front door open. Immediately, she tells me to stop and pretend I'm sleeping. I'm all what the frick, the door to the room opens, and the light turns on. All I can hear is oh what the frick. I peek over my shoulder and see a girl and a very large guy standing in the doorway looking shocked. The guy is freaking out, and the girl is trying to calm him down, telling him it's okay. I'm dead. I know it. This is how my life is going to end. The only thing that saves me is when he takes the girl and throws her to the ground. This pisses her off more than I have ever seen another person pee, and he immediately starts apologizing to her as they leave the room. I jump out of bed, throw my pants back on and sprint out the door. I later find out that it was her sister's place room, and she was living with her boyfriend. A boyfriend who very well could play linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys. Scariest moment of my life, and worst blind date experience. Frick, I'm from New Jersey and I don't even know where Bloomington is. TLDR, blind date turned out to be a surprise couch masturbator. I met a couple through a mutual friend and we hang out for a bit one night. Have a decent time. I spend a couple days afterwards texting back and forth with the wife of the couple, thinking hey, new friend. She eventually starts talking up this friend of hers, Gary, and it is clear she wants to set us up on a date. Okay, I think. I'm newly single again after 5 years of bad relationship. We'll see how this goes. She describes him as football player build, not being a sports person. Does not occur to me I should have asked her to clarify. Would he be a quarterback or lineman, for instance? Anyhow, I meet Gary for coffee downtown. Suffice it to say he is a substantial man. But I think hey, I'm not perfect either. I'll give him a shot. We have an okay time over coffee, talking about regular random small talk topics. He walks me back to my place, but the night is still young and he suggests hanging out and watching some Futurama. So I invite him up. As soon as we are sitting down, he starts talking about his ex and all the drama she brought into his life, and it slowly comes to light that they may not be actually broken up. He is just seeing what else is out there. HRM. At this point I'm more than over the date and I'm ready for him to get out of my apartment. So I go to the restroom and plan on feigning illness upon my return. Turns out he gave me an even better excuse to give him the heave-ho. I return from the bathroom only to find him on my couch, masturbating furiously. I freak out, ask him what he is doing, and he says what does it look like and makes a motion for me to come join him. I was kind of at a loss at this point and I think all I did was say something about how he needs to leave. He removes his hand from inside his pants. Did I mention he was wearing sweatpants? Shrugs, and exits. I never heard from him or the woman who introduced me to him again. That's dangerously close to the naked man technique from How I Met Your Mother. The idea is that you would be so surprised by what you saw that you'd have sex with him simply out of respect for doing something so bold. That's a brave man, there. Holy crap, mine doesn't even compare to that. Once went on a date with a guy from work, bad idea, who took me to Dave & Buster's, for one, an arcade. For those who don't know, during the meal, He said all of the following. I have a short attention span and can't date a single girl for over 3 months. I want to become a professional video game player. I want to train to be a professional eater. I don't want to work a day in my life. I just want to play paintball. He was 23 years old, and I was 20. Even I knew this was childish nonsense. Later on at the movie, he asked if I would pay for our tickets because he ran out of money on our $25 dinner at the arcade. How to make all of these sound better. I am super adventurous and love trying new things. I want a job where I rely on my ability to perform things quickly and accurately. I would love to be a food critic someday. I enjoy spending a lot of my time outdoors playing sports. I went on a blind date 2 years ago with a guy one of my good friends set me up with. He just started university at USC and was majoring in political science. I thought he sounded pretty smart from what my friend told me and agreed. We met at Laguna Beach and had dinner at the Greeters restaurant, which is this cute little place that doesn't have the best decor, but has good food with large portions. It was fine at first because he was cute and we had some things in common like music and traveling. It wasn't until he started mentioning that he was a die-hard Republican and did not support gay marriage and abortions and IVF babies. I'm an IVF baby, and it's a sore subject because my mom tried so hard to have a baby with my dad and it wasn't until she tried IVF that she had me. Stupidly, I asked him what did he have against IVF babies. He immediately spews on and on that IVF babies are nothing more than objects of status to their parents, that it violates the rights of the child, depriving him of his true relationship with his parents and can hinder the maturing of his personality, etc. By this point, I was done with the date and just nodded along to whatever he said. After he paid the check, he drove me home and walked me to the front door. I unlocked it and then turned around to say goodnight when he leaned in with his tongue already out. I didn't know what to do, so I tilted my head so he would hit my cheek. Worst feeling ever of tongue licking your face. When I went inside, he looked at me shocked and asked if I was going to invite him in. When I told him no, he got pee and said that I paid for your freaking dinner by then. I just wanted to drink a bottle of wine by myself, so I took $10 out of my wallet, threw it in his face and closed the door. Worst blind date ever. I liked the $10 in the face part. When I was very young, probably around 12 or 13, an older friend of mine asked me if I wanted to go to a shop with him. I said I didn't have any problems with it and happily went along. On the way there he said he was meeting up with a girl and asked if I'd mind talking to her sister. Her sister was severely handicapped and in a wheelchair. Of course I didn't find this out until I met her. The girl then decided she didn't like me and proceeded to insult me. Based know your username, I would think you guys have at least one thing in common. College years. Set up on a date with a nice girl who was totally in love with her next door neighbor, who wanted to be a Catholic priest. One and done. Ouch. About 9 years ago I was bored and unsure where to meet new people after ending a 4-year relationship, so I decided to give online dating a try. It seemed like a great idea. Eventually I start emailing this awesome guy. His messages are laced with genuine wit and charm. He's good looking, he's smart, well educated and makes me laugh. Everything seems fantastic and eventually we meet at a coffee shop. He looks even better than his photo. Score. He has a great smile and is as tall as he said he was. Everything was super amazing great. As we sit at the coffee shop we make small talk and I notice he is starting to sweat. Not a little nervous sweat, but I just ran a freaking marathon sweat. I ask him if he's just worked out to make conversation and he spends the next hour detailing all of his mental health and medical problems, including his glandular problems, explosive temper, anxiety and jealousy. He looks around nervously and mentions that his ex has a restraining order against him and that he's afraid she just walked by the coffee shop. He asks me to meet him a few blocks away so he doesn't get arrested. I just gathered up my bag, walked straight to my car and drove away without even a goodbye. Thanks Match.com. She was mean to the waitress. It was bizarre. There's not much else to tell. It was just an incredibly awkward experience. I went back and tipped the waitress double under the guise of using the restroom. A date being rude to a server is a huge turn off. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.